Thanks for joining us. We are live on the 13 Now digital desk here in the News 13 newsroom here in Panama City. I'm Kelsey Peck, and we have some breaking news and some of a fire, a huge, massive wildfire, 520 acres at this time, burning in Walton County, Santa Rosa Beach to be specific. Around 5 o'clock, firefighters started fighting this massive woods fire, which has just grown so rapidly. The weather not helping in that at all. Really contributing to that fire spreading, eventually jumping Highway 98, and tonight is causing just so much destruction, delays, evacuations, and just a really serious situation for so many residents over in Walton County. So you're seeing video right now that we've had multiple viewers sending into us. We're trying to get as much information as we can right now as that fire continues to grow and really keeps what we've been told 100 personnel right now working together, multiple agencies, not just South Walton Fire District, but Walton County Fire Rescue, Panama City Beach Fire Rescue, so many other fire agencies, Florida Forest Service as well, managing this fire, and agencies coming from all over to really try and put this fire out that with the windy conditions, which you've been outside, you've seen how windy it is, that is the biggest challenge right now for firefighters. And just everything today with the weather and how dry it's been has not helped this situation at all, and it's not going to continue to help with what firefighters are dealing with at the moment. So I do want to bring up right now, though, what we're dealing with as far as drivers. If you're trying to get a certain place, you're certainly at a roadblock, or you're being told to turn around. Westbound motorists need to avoid both Highway 98 and 30A to west of Highway 331, and eastbound motorists need to avoid Highway 98 and 30A west of Mac Bayou Road. Multiple homes have been evacuated at this time. Multiple structures have been burned. And again, multiple personnel are trying to do their job. And right now they're asking people, if you haven't gotten a call that says you need to evacuate, then you need to shelter in place and stay put. They've had to deal with a lot of people that want to go out and watch and see and take photos, and they don't need that right now. They're telling everyone to stay put so that can help them better do their job at this moment. So I know we've talked to first responders, and that's what they're asking right now, because they don't want to keep them busy trying to tell people to not look at this moment. Florida Forest Service has 15 bulldozers and 2 engines on scene right now, and again, so many other agencies assisting with this fire. We also have a reporter on scene as well that's gathering information. I also have Chief Meteorologist Ross Whitley, who told you yesterday about how dangerous it would be right now with burning and this red flag warning that was issued for today. And so this is really a worst case scenario that you kind of warned of. Tell me a little bit more about that, Ross.
Yeah, red flag warning conditions typically mean either we have really high temperatures with low humidity, or we have strong winds with low humidity. In the case today, we had pretty warm temperatures that got up into the mid to upper 80s. We had low humidity, and by that I mean our dew point values dropped down to around 35, 36 degrees. So you split the difference between the dew point and the temperature, and that gives you your relative humidity. So it was around 17% by the time this fire started. And what that allows for is whenever fires get going in a very low humid environment, materials that typically would be holding that moisture from the air inside, so trees would have some water content to them. When the humidity is really dry, then they don't have to fight that moisture. So the fire can ignite material really quickly, and then it can burn through that material as well. The difference being basically, if you think about a live tree outside after a heavy rain versus the material inside your home, obviously the material inside your home is in a low humid environment, is very dry, didn't have any moisture, versus the tree that is going to have some moisture. But if you take away the humidity outside, then you take away that moisture out of that tree, regardless of recent rain events or what have you. So dry, perfect fire conditions. Unfortunately, we saw this fire start around 5 o'clock and then rapidly grow, and we still have that wind feeding the fire now. Thankfully, for those of us that are to the east of this fire, the wind is out of the northwest, so the fire is likely going to be pushing toward the Gulf. Unlikely that it will move very far to the east, because we just don't have a whole lot of west direction. And overnight tonight, our wind will shift to more out of the northerly direction, meaning that the fire will actually kind of back up on itself and go back over material that it has already burned. So that will help the firefighting efforts as we go through the night as the wind direction changes from out of the northwest to the north. So that's some good news out there, but still high fire danger tonight will continue, and that will last into and through the day tomorrow, because we're going to have another very dry day. Not as windy tomorrow, but another very dry day. So areas outside of this fire, the rest of our area, don't burn anything, because wildfire danger will still be high for tonight and tomorrow.
A lot of folks, Ross, sometimes say, well, there's not a burn ban in place, or someone's not telling me not to burn. But I just think that it's so important to listen to people like you that's saying, hey, conditions aren't favorable, so you really just don't want to do it.
Yeah, I mean, in a case like today, typically the National Weather Service here issues maybe between 3 and 5 red flag warnings a year. And basically, so that's very, very rare that you're going to see a red flag warning. So avoid days where it's dry outside. I mean, it's 5 days that you can't burn something. So, don't burn. If it's dry and the conditions aren't right, then you really should be paying attention to that. Especially if you are going to burn something outside, you probably should pay attention to the conditions on which you do burn something. And we don't really know how this fire started. So this could have been a wildfire that was ongoing, and maybe a hot spot flared up, and then we had the conditions just perfect for growth today. So at the moment, we have no confirmation that somebody started this fire, but as is the case, over 90% of wildfires in the U.S. are caused by human activity. So most of the time, wildfires happen and get out of control because someone lit a fire, not because lightning struck an area or because a power line came down. Majority of it is someone had a fire going outside unattended, and it got out of control. That's something that it could be avoided, just knowing what the conditions are. And today was an example of that. Again, we don't know how this fire started, but it's there now. So the only thing to do is get out of the way of the people fighting the fire.
Right, to catch you up to speed, this is a 520-acre wildfire right now in Santa Rosa Beach that has spread rapidly and continues to grow right now, as Ross said, because of those unfortunate wind conditions and just weather in general. It started in the Musset Bayou Road area, so some woods back there, and then has just continued to grow, eventually jumping Highway 98. Which is sort of a rarity, to jump a 4-lane highway, which is only, causing more issues, and has really have boots on the ground for multiple agencies here. You've got agencies from all surrounding counties that are coming together, and then you also have Florida Forest Service with 15 bulldozers, 2 engines, on the ground to work this, and then you also have the Sheriff's Office putting up roadblocks as well. So I know there might be some frustrated folks just trying to find different routes to go home. And then there's also the concern of folks that live in that area that are trying to get out and take pictures and just see it for themselves. And, Sheriff Atkinson is saying, please don't do that. Shelter in place. If you didn't get a phone call to get out and to evacuate, then you don't need to be outside of your home at this time. We did get a chance to speak to some officials. I know that we have Fire Marshal Sammy Sanchez with South Walton Fire District, who talked to us a little bit earlier. Let's see what he has to say.
They encountered a rapidly moving fire that has quickly spread really from the north side of that area, jumped Highway 98 into Thompson Road area. We've got several crews several units on scene right now. They encountered a rapidly moving fire that has quickly spread really from the north side of that area, jumped Highway 98 into Thompson Road area. We've got several crews several units on scene right now. They encountered a rapidly moving fire that has quickly spread really from the north side of that area, jumped Highway 98 into Thompson Road area. We've got several crews several units on scene right now.
So there you had it. You have, Fire Marshal Sanchez there talking about how it jumped the roadway there and just causing more issues. And the Thompson Road area, that's where they have a media staging area as well over in Thompson Road and Highway 98. And we do have a reporter who is gathering information for us as this develops. This is a developing story. Sheriff Michael Atkinson with Walton County Sheriff's Office also talked a little bit about evacuations and the situation there.
If you are in an evacuation area, you should have just received a call from the Sheriff's Office advising you to evacuate. And keep in mind, when we said evacuate, we picked a wider area.
So Sheriff Atkinson saying there that they made phone calls to those that need to evacuate, and they actually made that evacuation area a little bit larger than they needed to, just to err on the side of caution, right? So just they just wanted to make sure they had a wide area enough there to get people out of harm's way. This is a very dangerous, rapid-moving fire, 520 acres at this time, and a lot of boots on the ground as we speak, as first responders work to get this fire out. We have multiple structures that are burned, and we have multiple homes that have been evacuated at this time. We also know that conditions for this wildfire were just, you hate to say it, but they were perfect for something like this. You had low humidity, you had very dry conditions, and it just, everything kind of came together as a formula to make one little spark really just grow and really becoming a problem for first responders here tonight. Ross talking a little bit about that and just how the weather just is not helping at all today. We haven't had significant rainfall really in that area either. We heard Florida Forest Service tell us a little bit earlier. I know, Ross, you could probably talk a little more about that. We haven't had a significant rain event per se in the last few days. That doesn't really help either.
Right, yeah. No, it's been dry, and really the last significant rain we had was, oh man, I'm drawing a blank on the last time we had heavy rain move through. So it's been a while since, really, I guess the severe weather would be the last real heavy rain event that we had through here. And since then, we've seen basically less than an inch of rain. So it's been a while. I guess we had a non-event. Anyways, it doesn't matter. It's dry. It's dry all across the area. And then days like today, where you have drier air coming in. So we had a cold front go through last night. That's what basically prompted the red flag warning for today, is because we knew a trough was going to be set up off to our north, and that would allow for pressure gradient values to be high. That's all fancy speak for it was going to be breezy, and we knew that. So today we had winds anywhere from about 15 to 25 miles per hour, relatively sustained. Even at times I saw winds sustained over 25, 30 miles an hour, and we had gusts as high as 35, even 37, 38 miles per hour as we went throughout this afternoon. And then you add on top of that dew point values that are very, very low, and in this case down into the 30s. That allows for our relative humidity, that number that everyone thinks is the number that you get when you say it's humid outside, but that's really has more to do with the dew point than it does relative humidity. But relative humidity plays a much bigger factor in fire habits and how fire works throughout as it burns. And so the lower the percentage of relative humidity, the greater your fire danger is going to be. And that's part of the reason why we're going to have another high fire danger day tomorrow. Even though we're not going to see a whole lot of wind across the area, we're going to have our relative humidity values again tomorrow afternoon back down in and around 20%. So that in itself will allow for fire to spread rapidly even without the wind.
Right.
But today, obviously, the wind really playing a factor in this, and definitely helped the fire move from one side of 98 to the other side of 98.
In a quick way too. The wind just really speeding it up, and then not really allowing firefighters to get a hand on it,
right?
And really try to stop it.
Yeah, it's just acts as an accelerant, basically.
Right.
Yeah, you're just adding more oxygen to a fire, and that's basically what fires need. I think we all remember fire education in elementary school, where it's the three things that contribute to fire. It is oxygen, and then your supply, your material. So if you have plenty of oxygen, you have low dry supply and material, and then you have material to burn, then you've created the conditions for fire. So once you get a fire going, if you have the wind helping to fuel that, get the oxygen in, then you're really going to have a hard time fighting it. And that's exactly what our firefighters are doing. Again, the good news is that this is coming from a wind out of the northwest. The wind is going to die down tonight, and we've already started to see it die down tonight, but we're still getting gusty conditions that will still likely continue until the early morning hours, those gusty conditions. But the wind will change direction, not to more westerly, but to a more north direction. The fire is moving from northwest to southeast, but that is pushing it toward the Gulf. So in order for it to move more east, the fire itself would basically have to create this environment where it was being fed from a west wind. That's really unlikely. So those of you that haven't, as Kelsey said, gotten a phone call to say evacuate, then you need to shelter in place. And it's highly unlikely that the fire is actually going to move over your area because what we have up here, you'll see this is a 15-minute loop. And that's not rain you're seeing on the radar there. That is smoke. So this started on the north side of 98, and it's still showing some smoke coming from the north side of 98, so the fire still exists there. But it was really, when we first noticed it, that County Highway 393 you see there on the map, between there and 98 is where the fire started. And it's basically over the same areas. It's moved off to the south and east toward Duneallen Beach, but we haven't seen it move east. It's more of a south direction. So chances that it makes it even to places like Blue Gulf Beach or Blue Mountain Beach is highly unlikely. It's most likely going to move toward the Gulf, and then by that point in time, hopefully we see a wind direction more northerly, and it kind of pushes it back on itself, and it doesn't have anywhere to go because it's going to have the Gulf and then just the fuel that it's already burnt. So it's unlikely we'll see it move east. So if you're watching from even places just off to the east in Walton County, chances are that this is going to be contained before it can spread east. We do have wildfires that go out of control and exhibit strange behavior, but this doesn't hopefully seem to be one of those that will do that. This will likely follow that wind direction and then continue and be contained. So the good news is there, when we did have the radar pulled up, you don't see any yellows showing up. Yellows obviously would be signifying that there's more density to the radar return, so that would indicate a hotter fire. I've seen yellow show up in this radar return over the last couple of hours several times, meaning that it's probably gotten, unfortunately, some homes or something else to get going and burning, and that created a hotter fire for more smoke to be out there. But seeing the trend down, a dying trend in the radar returns, is good news. It likely means that they're starting to contain this a little bit, and it's running out of material to burn. So that's good news.
And we hope to check in with Florida Forest Service and other officials as more information becomes available. We know it's 520 acres. I do not know a containment at this time, if there is a containment that they have of the fire, but we do know that multiple structures have been burned, and we do know that multiple homes have been evacuated, and that, you know, if you need to be evacuated, you're supposed to be getting a phone call, is what Sheriff Atkinson told us, and that evacuation area is just a little bit larger than needed, but just for safety precautions as well. They also have blocked many roads too, so westbound motorists need to avoid both Highway 98 and 30A to west of Highway 331, and eastbound motorists need to avoid Highway 98 and 38 west of Mac Bayou Road. So just some important information to keep in mind, in that they are turning around drivers and will be you know, told to go another route. And if you're out, you know, out and about because you want to snap video and take pictures, first responders are asking you please not to do that. It's not helping them, and it's just easier to keep everyone, you know, safe. That's the whole game here, and we want to make sure that first responders can focus on what they're there to do, and that's to put this fire out and stop that threat from so many homes tonight in the Santa Rosa Beach, Walton County area. We have about 100 personnel, they said, if that even more is what they had said, at least 100 you know, different individuals there on scene, firefighters from so many different surrounding agencies coming together, and Florida Forest Service, you know, South Walton Fire District. So I can't name them all, so I don't want to leave anybody out. But there's so many there to help with this fire. And we have 15 bulldozers, 2 engines from Florida Forest Service, and just everything they're trying to do to get this woods fire that's become a wildfire essentially in this area. We have Sammy Sanchez, the fire marshal with the South Walton Fire District. He is on scene and talks a little bit about just sort of how that fire started and what they're doing.
They encountered a rapidly moving fire that has quickly spread really from the north side of that area, jumped Highway 98 into Thompson Road area. We've got several crews on unit, or several units on scene right now. They encountered a rapidly moving fire that.
And also Sheriff Atkinson talking a little bit about those evacuations and sort of their response as they continue to also help out with the situation. Let's hear what Sheriff Atkinson has to say. So like he just said, we went bigger just to err on the side of caution there. And if you received a phone call, that means that they have asked that family, the homeowners, to evacuate in that situation. So this 520-acre wildfire is a developing story, and we're working to gather more information as it becomes available. And we appreciate you joining us. And of course, we'll have the most up-to-date information on News 13 at 10, that newscast getting ready to start here. And we'll, of course, try to bring you more information as it becomes available.